Alright, so today we are looking at digital editing, specifically using Final Cut, although what I'm going to show you here also works with iMovie, 90% of it anyway, as well as most other editing systems. So first, you're going to go down to the bottom in your dock and you're going to open up Final Cut Pro. If it is not down in your dock, you're going to open it from Applications and drag it down there. When you open up Final Cut for the first time, it's going to look a lot like this. Blank and empty. The first thing that you're going to want to do is open a new, there we go, open a new project. So we're going to be in Final Cut, we're going to go to File, New Project. Now you're going to want to name your project because you're going to have several projects going on the same computer, especially if you have me for multiple classes. So we're going to put my name and then what the project is. Or you can put the hour for that project too. So second hour, third hour, whatever. I'm going to call this Edit Practice. Alright, so now we've got our file up here. We still don't have any video clips or anything to do here. So first we're going to take a look at the parts of an editing system. And again, iMovie, Final Cut, they're both going to be the same as far as this goes. Down here at the bottom, this is your timeline. And your timeline is where you're going to actually build the project, where you're going to put things together. And up here is your browser. Your browser is where you're going to store video clips and audio clips until you're ready to use them in your project and put them down here. Remember that until it's in the timeline, it's not actually part of your project and it's not going to show up. So first things first, we need to get stuff into our project and into our browser. So we're going to go to File and Import Media. Now I'm going to take a second to point out this little thing here to the side where it says Command I. This is what's called a hotkey or a shortcut. So if you hit Command I, it will also open up the import menu like this. And a lot of times it's a good idea to learn how to be faster, quicker. So I usually use hotkeys for things like importing video, things that I do a lot. So first, where do you get your video clips from? Well, first, I'm going to hide this for a second. If you pull stuff in from the camera, you're typically going to drop it onto the desktop. So you're going to go to Desktop and you're going to find it there. If it's in your case, and you'll have a Downloads folder that's specific to your login number, your student number. And anything that you pull from the internet will be in there. And so what I want to use is footage that I pulled in from another computer called Practice Edit. It's one from a couple years ago, but I'm still going to use it. Now I want all of this video. So I could go through and click them all individually and hit import every single time, click import, But to save time, because again, I want to save as much time as possible, I'm going to click on a clip and then hold Shift on the keyboard and then click the last clip, and that highlights all of them. And by the way, this little trick of how to highlight multiple things at once, this works for every program. So no matter what you're using, you can hold Shift while you're clicking on the clips that you want to select, and it will select all of them. So I'm going to import all of them. And now I've got stuff in my browser. And most of them are video clips. And you can tell that because they've got a little symbol here to the side, a little film strip. You can see the video clip when it pops up. This is just audio. And you can tell that because it's got a little speaker next to it. And so over here, instead of seeing a picture, you only see the waveform, which is the visual representation of the sound. So now what to do with all of these clips? Well, with the first project that you're going to do this year, I'm going to hide this again, you're going to use a script that you're going to write that's going to be your guideline on how to put your project together. So this is the script that I wrote for this project here that I'm working on. This is a 2-column script. I went a little too far there. A 2-column script has video and audio. Video on one side, audio on the other. The video side is everything that we can see. The audio side is everything that we're going to hear. And because I've got parts that I want to say word for word or put in there word for word, I wrote them out specifically word for word so that when I recorded my voiceover, I knew exactly what to say. The video side is very vague and open, right? Because you're just basically going to put clips that match up with the stuff that you're talking about in most cases. If you want something specific, like a camera move or a specific part of that shot or something like that, you can put that information in the video side of your script as well. Okay, so back to Final Cut. We've got our stuff here. We've got our clips, and those clips match up with the stuff in our script. So when it says audio from Chico, hi, Mr. Chico here, time for another video scavenger hunt, this is the first part that I'm going to look for. And it's going to be on camera because it says on camera from Chico. So you're going to see me talking. So I'm going to find Chico over here. There it is. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I went through and named all these clips. When you import them from a camera, they're just going to have numbers attached to them. So you can go through and name all of your clips like this if you want to. I typically don't do that. Just know that, find a way to keep track of the stuff that you shoot, basically. Okay, so you can see the audio up here in these waveforms. I'm going to use that to figure out where the sound is that I want to use. Time for another video scavenger hunt. Hi, Mr. Chico here. Hi, Mr. Chico here. So just like you're going to run into when you record audio, or if you have other people record audio for you, or you interview people or whatever, people screw up sometimes. People stammer and have to start over and that kind of stuff. So be aware of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the beginning part here where I'm talking and start it right about here. So you have play controls here. Time again for another on the actual video clip, but that's kind of a pain to use. And you can drag here, but it's not very precise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand on the keyboard, and I've got my thumb on the space bar, and when I hit the space bar, it plays. The video scavenger hunt. And my finger falls on the letter J, my first finger. So when I hit J, it plays backwards. And I can watch up here in the browser, I can see the little play bar moving to where I want it to be. Hi, Mr. Chico here. Time again for another video scavenger hunt. That's it. So I'm going to back it up again. J. Now right there is where I want this clip to start, and I want to tell Final Cut to start it there. So I'm going to hit the letter I, and it makes an endpoint up here in the browser. IN, endpoint. So now when I play... Hi, Mr. Chico here. Time again for another video scavenger hunt. Some new shots, some old shots, some good shots, some bad shots. Let's take a look. I'm going to pause it by using the space bar. And now I want to tell Final Cut that this is where I want this clip to end. So I used I for endpoint, O for out point. So now, if you notice, just this part is highlighted in yellow, and when I drag down, that part is the only part that comes down, and it drops into my timeline in the dark black band down here at the bottom. Hi, Mr. Chico here. Time again for another video scavenger hunt. Some new shots, some old shots, some good shots, some bad shots. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at the script and see what comes next. Music starts, plays for 4 seconds, and then drops down. New shots include the painting, the tilt down screen, yada yada. And then it's got clips that it wants me to put in there with it. So for your projects, you would put shots from the dance department, or shots from, if you're talking about where you work, you would put job, location, whatever. Whatever it is you're talking about, you would put that in your script as what it is that you're going to show. Okay, so I'm going to put in the music. And this is just some generic copyright-free jazz. Nothing's fancy. So when I drop it in, if I put it in the same timeline part here as this clip, then I'll have to build on top of it, which is fine. But if I put it just a little bit underneath, and notice that a blue line appears down here. It attaches itself to that clip like that. And so now that leaves this top layer here open to put video clips and stuff in.
Some bad shots. Let's take a look.
Okay, so it's gonna play loud like that for a few seconds, and then I want the volume to drop down, because that's what it says in the script. And when I'm talking here, you don't want the volume of the music as loud as the person talking, otherwise you're not going to be able to hear them. So I am going to play this for a little bit and then drop the volume down, like it says there. So the easiest way for me to do that, I'm going to go here where my tools are. I'm going to select the blade. I'm going to cut the music. I'm going to go back to the arrow, highlight this part, and drop the volume down. So in both your video clips here and your audio clips here, the music, you have a little line that runs through the middle, and it shows you in with the waveform here, the visual representation of the sound, how loud it is. And so 0 is normal volume. Right? If you look over here on my audio meter, 0 is normal. Anything below 0 is too quiet. Anything above 0 is louder. So here, I'm going to take this part that I want to be quieter, and I'm going to drop it down to about -15 or so. So you can still hear it, but you'll be able to hear me talking over it. Now I want to do something about the fact that it goes from really, really loud to really quiet all of a sudden. So I am going to go here to transitions, which is this little two triangle thing next to each other at the very end. I'm going to take a dissolve, and I'm going to have the music dissolve from loud to quiet. And that smooths it out a lot and makes it sound a lot better when you go from loud to quiet or quiet to loud. Okay, and so right here is where I want to start talking again.
Hi, Mr. Cheek. New shots included. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5.
Don't want to use that part.
New shots included the.
That's it. So I'm going to back it up using J.
Schön.
Pause it with the space bar. In point with the letter I.
New shots included the painting, the tilt down from the projector screen, and the zoom in and out, and the zoom out on the piano.
Okay, there's a mistake there that I'll have to fix, but I'm going to fix that down here in the timeline in a second, because it's going to involve cutting a part out, and that's easier to do down here. So right here is where I want this clip to end, so I hit O, drop it down, and I put the play bar here, right where the transition is, so that way I know right where I want that clip to start.
New shots included the painting, the tilt down from the projector screen, and the zoom in and out, and the...
Okay, so this is where the mistake is.
And the zoom...
Okay, so I want to cut this part out. And the easiest way to do that is get the blade, put the play bar right where I want to cut there, and on the other side of the mess up, which you can see here. Then go back to the arrow, highlight the part I want to get rid of, hit delete, and slide this over.
New shots included the painting, the tilt down from the projector screen, and the zoom out on the piano.
Alright, so now it sounds fine. Took out the mistake. Now let's put some video clips in here on top of that. So we're going to go back to our script. The first part where the music starts, we're going to look at good shots. So I'm going to find the one that says good shots. This is long. We only need a little bit of it. So I'm going to grab a little bit of it. And I want this clip to go all the way here. So I'm going to grab the edge and drag. And by doing that, you can make that as long or as short as the clip is. Like that.
Let's take a look. New shots included the
Okay, that looked good. So now the next part, this part here where I'm talking, we should be seeing the other stuff. So we're going to go find the painting, good tilts, and the good piano. So here's painting. Again, it's longer than I need it to be. So I'm going to drag it in.
New shots included the painting.
And there's a weird move here at the beginning, so I'm going to take that part out. So all I'm going to do is grab the edge, in the same way that I extended out the edge on this one, I can drag it in and pull it in some and cut it that way.
New shots included the painting.
And right there is where I want painting to end. So I'm going to grab the end of painting and drag it back. Now I could also use the blade, cut it, go back to the arrow, select and highlight. But you can drag clips longer and shorter. Now notice this is as long as the painting clip is, because that's all that was recorded. Looks like about 6 seconds. So I can't make it any longer than that, no matter how hard I drag. But I can make it shorter by cutting it in like that.
New shots included the painting, the tilt down from the projector screen.
Okay, so the good tilt is next. Here it is. And I want to look at where it tilts down from the projector screen. So like that. So I'm pausing it with the space bar. Back it up with J. Right about there. In point and drag it down. Again, it's too long, but I can fix that.
The painting, the tilt down from the projector screen.
Right about there is where I want that one to stop. So again, I'm going to grab the edge and drag it down. And then piano.
And the zoom out on the piano,
which is this one here. So I'm looking at where it zooms out on the piano. So like, go right about here. In point, drag it down.
New shots included the painting, the tilt down from the projector screen, and the zoom out on the piano.
Okay. And again, it's a little long, so I can pull it in. Now, what if there was a lot of background noise or problems like that with this clip? You can always take the audio, and if you want it louder, make it up above 0 like that, or if you want it below 0, drop it all the way down. And now you can't hear it at all.
And the zoom out on the piano.
The next part of the script is, I think, back to me. The piano shot replaces the zoom in on the doors, yada yada. And that is a stand-up from back on Chico. So I'm going to go back here, find that clip again. And even though I've used 2 different parts from here, every time I go up and tell it to pick a different part, it still keeps the parts that I already dropped down into my timeline.
The piano shot replaces the studio. The piano shot replaces the studio door shot. The piano shot replaces the studio door shot.
I screwed up a lot here.
From last year. And while going from a tiny plant to a giant piano may seem easy, some groups had problems.
Okay, so I know this is where I want it to end. So I'm going to hit Alt Point and then back it up using J on the keyboard.
Small bar best movements. Easy me see him when I do I'll number from no clown. Very Salmer. I showed no use to the sales. I showed
Right about here.
door shot. The piano shot.
That's it.
I showed
In point.
The piano shot replaces the studio door shot.
Perfect. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag that down. And it will match up right next there to the part where I was talking before.
On the piano. The piano shot replaces the studio door shot.
And in fact, if I wanted to, I could take the piano and extend it out just a little bit longer to cover a little bit of that one too. So I want you guys to see this. If you put multiple clips on top of each other, you're going to see the one that's on top. Think of it as like pieces of paper on a desk. Whichever piece of paper is on the top is the one that people see. So here, because you have painting and the tilt and the piano on top of me talking, You see those shots. You still hear me, but you don't see me. So that's one way to get just the audio from a clip and not the video. If for some reason you want to make the video clip disappear, there's another way to do that too. But let's take a look at how this looks first.
New shots included the painting, the tilt down from the projector screen, and the zoom out on the piano. The piano shot replaces the studio door shot from last year.
Perfect. Very good. I like that. So this is basic editing, putting your shots in order, cutting the parts out that you don't want, keeping the parts that you do want, and putting them in the order that you want them to be. We're going to look at some fancier stuff in just a second. I mentioned that if you wanted just the audio but not the video at all, what you can do is click on the clip and then go up here to where you have your options. If you don't see this part, go to Window and click on your inspector. This is your inspector where you can change the parts and the options in your clip. And one of them, if you go to the video part here, the little film strip, one of them is what is called opacity. Opacity, that's a great pause. Opacity is how see-through a clip is. So if I highlight the clip, I can take the opacity and drop it all the way down to 0, and now you can hear the clip, but you can't see it.
Studio door shot from last year.
So you can still hear it, but you just can't see it. I'm going to turn this all the way back up, and now it's back to normal. So even if you screw up, you accidentally delete a clip, or you don't edit it properly and you cut part off,
Plant to a giant.
like that. If you go under Edit, you can undo pretty much anything that you did before. And Final Cut has almost unlimited undo. So no matter how much you screw up, you can find ways to go back and fix it. Okay, so let's look at the fancy stuff now. First off, I mentioned transitions and how to put a cross dissolve on your music. You can put transitions on your video clips as well, and there are a lot of transitions. You're going to want to use transitions and effects and things like that. The way I describe it is spice when you're cooking. You don't want no spice. You don't want your stuff to be unflavored, but at the same time, you don't want to use every transition and every effect and every, filter and all kinds of stuff all thrown in there at once, because that would be like dropping the entire spice rack into your food. And that's not a good idea. My suggestion is stay consistent when you're using transitions and effects and stuff. You don't have to use the same transition all the time, but if you find one that you like, kind of stick with it, because constantly changing transitions or effects can be really off-putting, and it can distract the audience from what you're trying to tell them. So let's say we found one that we liked. Notice if I can drag over it with my mouse, and it kind of gives me an idea of what it's going to look like. So I can take that and just drag it in between the clips here.
And the zoom out on the piano. The piano shot replaces the studio door.
And that looks really weird, so I don't want to use that one, so I'm going to undo. So you'll notice with some transitions like dissolves and things like that,
The piano shot.
the clip underneath shows up, whether you want it to or not. So like here where it's supposed to go from the tilt to the piano,
From the projector screen. And the
a lot of times you can see the clip underneath it. So in order to avoid that, that's when you're going to want to take the clip and drop the opacity down and make it invisible. But a lot of the clips won't, or a lot of the transitions won't do that. And again, there's a lot of different kinds. They're all set into folders, so if there's something specific you're looking for, you can just search in that folder, find it, drop it in.
And the zoom out.
Things like that. So there's fancy ones and goofy ones and everything in between. So those are transitions. Let's put some text on screen, because every project that you do, you're going to want to put a title at the beginning and credits at the end, saying who made it and where your music came from and things like that. So up here at the top, we have the option where the T is, kind of thing. So we're going to do that, and it's going to take a second because my computer's running slow. There we go. So just like there's a lot of different transitions, there are a lot of different text effects and things that you can try and do. And even those have different options. So again, it helps sometimes if you know specifically what you're looking for, because they're broken up into folders. So in this case, we're just going to grab a couple and go with it. So let's start with the cinematic ones first. These are a lot of fun. If I wanted to take this one here, put it on there. Notice if I put it on top of the video clip here, it shows up on top of it.
From last year. And while going from a tiny plant to
a lot of these are see-through. If they've got black backgrounds like that, that means that you're going to be able to see through them. So if I took the pixie dust one and I put that on top of the video, like right here, then you would see it go over the video. If you take it and you put it down in the same part of the timeline as the video, then it appears over black. And if I wanted it, let's say, before all this, I could take it and drop it in down here, and it would push everything over. So let's go back to this one here, and I want to show you how you can change the options on a lot of the basic standard setups for your titles. So this one, we're obviously going to want to change the words. We're going to want to change everything else too, probably. So I'm going to go up here to where the T is. I'm going to click the lines. Here is where you change the text. So we could change this to say my name and my project, or whatever, you know, obviously whatever you're going to put. What if you didn't want it blue? What if you didn't want to use this font? Well, for each part, you can click on it. You can change what the font is, and again, there are lots and lots and lots of options. And you can change the size, and you can change all that. Just like any basic typing program, you can go up to my name, highlight, and change this part too. Whatever. If you want to change the other options, like how the words come in and the color of the background, stuff like that, up here at the top, next to those lines, you've got the T itself. When you click on that, build in is the effect that it uses to come in. So this is what it looks like now.
from last year.
Where it swoops in from the side. You can change that to do it from the other side.
Shot from last year. And
You can change it to do a flip.
from last year. And while
Depending on which text effect you're choosing, there's a lot of different options you can do. Some more than others. So some let you change how the words or the letters come in. Some don't. Some let you change the basics of the colors and tile and stuff like that. Pretty much all of them you can change what color the letters are. That's not too hard. You can always change the style, the font of the letters. And a lot of them you can change. If they've got a background, you can change the color. This is hideous. Or you can click off and have no background at all. And you can change whether or not it fades out at the end. That thing, you know, like that. Again, not all text effects have the same options. So you're going to want to go through and see what you can do to it, because the last thing you want is just to grab something, drop it in, and use it, because then your text and your projects are going to look the same as everybody else's. So go through, figure out what's out there, and then figure out what you can do with it. If you want to change the color, go to face. If you want to change the style, you can turn on 3D text. If you want to change the kind of font, you can do that. There's a lot of different things that you can do with text. And you can always take it and move it around even after you've put it on there. You can take it and make it longer. You can take it and make it shorter. Change it up. And if you decide you don't like it, you can highlight it and hit delete and drop another one on. And if you're not sure, just grab me and ask. But again, there's a lot of things that you can do. There's no reason at all for you to have really basic, standard-looking titles and credits. Not that it changes your grade any, but if it looks basic, people are going to judge your project on that. So you want stuff that looks cool because that gets the audience's attention. So the last bit to show you over here is effects. So again, there are tons of both video effects and audio effects. Now these are the kinds of things that you're not going to use very often unless you have a good reason to. This is not, Instagram, so you're not going to go around throwing filters on everything for no good reason. But if you have a reason, then it's a good, a good place to go to look for stuff. If you want to make stuff look unusual, not that unusual, then there's a bunch of different stuff you can do, right? And any transitions that you do throw on there, you can just take, click, drag them over. Again, you'll have options that you can change. So if you want to cut back on certain things and have it just a little bit of an effect on there, you can do that, or a lot. You can mix different filters and things or effects and things together. And if you decide you don't like it, you can always highlight it and delete it and get rid of it and pick something else. But the effects do stack on top of each other. So if I picked, let's say, a mask like that, and then the comic thing, and put them both on there, then they're both on there. And you can tell over here in my inspector that they're both on there. Again, you can always turn them off and on or delete them entirely if they don't look the way you want to. But the more effects and things you throw on there, the slower your editing can be at times. Because it makes it harder for the program to keep up with what you're doing. The last thing I want to show you is the audio meter here on the side. Because if you look, when the music is playing, I want you to watch the audio meter over here.
New shots included the painting, the tilt down from the projector screen, and the zoom out on the piano.
Okay. So as the audio meter is moving, notice it gets close to 0, but not all the way past it. If the music and the stuff is too loud, it'll look like this. And the zoom out. So notice it's hitting up in the orange up here, and that's bad. What happens is, if your project is too loud or too quiet, then when we try and play it back in class, it either sounds way too hard to hear or way too distorted. I'm going to turn my voice and the music down for a minute just to show you this part. So here we have it playing, and you can sort of hear it, but it's way down here at the bottom. And what that means is when we play it back in class, it's going to be hard to hear because everybody else's project was up at a normal volume around 0. When yours comes back, it's way down here, and it's going to be quieter than everybody else's. You also need to go through and make sure that when you watch your project back, all of your volume is at a consistent level. You don't want parts really loud, parts really quiet, and parts in between. Because then when you play it back, it's going to be either really distorted in parts or really hard to hear in parts. And so if you don't see the audio meter here on the side, sometimes when you start Final Cut up, it looks like this with nothing over here. Then click here where the audio meter is on your playback, and it shows up here on the side where it's much easier to see. Okay, so this is the basics of it. Again, if you decide to move stuff around, you can. Change things, you can. Delete stuff, you can. These are all just blocks that you can play around and move and change. And sometimes, if you're not careful, you'll end up moving stuff and screwing stuff up, but you can always undo and get it back to the way it was.